Isabella slammed the piano bench shut and crossed her arms. I hate piano. I want to quit. It's stupid and boring, and I never want to play again. Her dad, Marco, looked up from his laptop, where he'd been researching new piano teachers and practice apps, his usual response when Isabella got frustrated with music. But something about her tone made him pause. For the past month, Isabella had been increasingly resistant to piano practice. Marco had tried everything, a different practice schedule, new sheet music, even promising ice cream after practice sessions. Nothing worked. His 9-year-old daughter, who had once bounced eagerly to the piano bench, now approached it like she was walking to her execution. "I've tried everything," Marco muttered to himself, then stopped. Had he? Or had he just tried every solution without really understanding the problem? He closed his laptop and sat down next to Isabella, who was still glaring at the piano keys. "Isabella, I'm really curious about something," he said gently. "You used to love piano so much. Help me understand what's making it feel awful now." "I just hate it," Isabella said, but her voice was softer now, less defiant. "I hear that it feels terrible right now," Marco said, "but I'm wondering, what specifically is making you hate it? Is it the songs you're playing?" Isabella shook her head. "The songs are fine." "Okay, so it's not the music itself. What about practicing? Is it boring to sit here and play?" "No, that's not it either," Isabella said, looking confused. Marco felt his instinct to start problem-solving kick in, but he pushed it down. "Get curious first," he reminded himself. "That's interesting. So the songs are fine, and practicing isn't boring. What do you think might be making piano feel bad, then?" Isabella was quiet for a long moment, her anger melting into something that looked more like sadness. "I don't know. It makes me feel stupid now." Now we're getting somewhere. Piano makes you feel stupid? That's really important information. Why do you think that is? Because I'm not good at it anymore." "What makes you think you're not good at it?" "Because Sofia is better than me, and she just started." Marco felt the pieces clicking together. Sofia was Isabella's 6-year-old cousin who had started piano lessons a month ago, right around the time Isabella's resistance had begun. "Ah," Marco said softly. "So you're comparing how you play to how Sofia plays." "She's so much better, and she's only 6, Isabella's words came out in a rush. "Last week at Mona's house, she played that song perfectly on the first try, and I've been working on harder songs for 3 years, and I still make mistakes." Marco resisted the urge to immediately reassure her or explain why this comparison wasn't fair. Instead, he stayed curious. "Why do you think it bothers you that Sofia seems to be learning quickly?" Isabella thought about this. Because if she's better than me and she just started, that means I'm really bad at piano." "What makes you think that being better or worse than Sofia means something about whether you're bad at piano?" Isabella looked genuinely puzzled by the question. I don't know. Isn't that how it works? If someone else is better, then you're worse?" Suddenly, Marco understood. This wasn't about piano at all. This was about Isabella's belief that her worth as a musician, maybe even as a person, was determined by comparison to others. "Isabella, I think I'm starting to understand why piano has been feeling so awful. It sounds like you're not actually angry at piano. You're worried that if Sofia plays better than you, it means something bad about you." Isabella nodded, tears flowing freely now. "What if I'm just not musical? What if I've been trying for 3 years and I'm still not good?" "What would it mean about you if you weren't naturally musical? Marco asked gently. That I'm not special, Isabella whispered. There it was. The real issue hiding underneath "I hate piano." Oh, sweetie, Marco said, pulling her into a hug. You thought that being good at piano was what made you special. Isabella nodded against his shoulder. And when Sofia seemed to pick it up quickly, it felt like maybe you weren't special after all? Yeah, Isabella said in a small voice. Marco held her for a moment, amazed at how far they'd traveled from "I hate piano" to the real fear underneath. No wonder his solutions hadn't worked. He'd been trying to fix the wrong problem. Isabella, what if I told you that Sofia learning quickly doesn't mean anything about how good you are? What if you could both be learning piano in your own ways? But she played that song perfectly. Why do you think that song might have been easy for Sofia specifically? Isabella considered this. Well, it was Happy Birthday, and she already knew the melody. Exactly. And what are you working on? Bach, Isabella said, sniffling. So you're comparing Sofia playing a simple melody she already knows to you learning complex classical music you've never heard before. Isabella looked up at him with a small smile. That's not really fair, is it? What do you think? Why might comparing your hardest work to her easiest work not give you good information about your abilities? Because we're doing totally different things, Isabella said with a smile. What else might be different about your piano journeys? Isabella was getting interested now, her investigative mind taking over. Well, I'm learning to read music, and she's just playing by ear. And I can play songs with both hands, and she's only using one hand. What does that tell you? That we're not really in the same place, so comparing doesn't make sense, Isabella said, looking surprised by her own conclusion. Marco smiled. What would happen if you thought about piano as your own personal journey instead of a competition with Sofia? It would be more fun, I think. I could focus on getting better instead of worrying about being better than someone else. How does that feel? Like I want to practice. Actually practice, not just sit here dreading it. That evening, as Isabella happily worked through her Bach piece, making mistakes and laughing instead of getting frustrated, Marco reflected on what had happened. His first instinct was to solve the surface problem, find new music, change teachers, adjust practice schedules. But by getting curious, instead of jumping to solutions, he'd discovered that the real issue was comparison anxiety and identity confusion, not musical challenge. Dad, Isabella called from the piano bench, I figured out why that section was so hard. Want to hear my theory? I'd love to hear your investigation. And as Isabella explained her musical detective work, Marco realized he'd given her something much more valuable than better practice techniques. He taught her to think deeply about problems instead of just reacting to them. That was a skill that would serve her far beyond piano, in friendships, school challenges, and every difficult situation she'd face in life. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to solve the problem, it's to understand it first.